Hello everybody and welcome back to fantasyfootballfix.com. My name is FPL Phillips and this is the final ever episode of the season of Eddie versus the algorithm. If you're new around here, this is of course the series where I take a look at the computer generated team each week of the season, then put together a team of my own and try and outscore it for points in that specific game week. We've got a little bit of catch up to do. Adding up the game week 36 scores, I came out 1 point on top in that game week. Of course, I couldn't do the recap last week as there were still game week 36 games to play when we did the 37 team reveal, but now let's have a little bit of a deep dive into the game week 37 scores and have a little bit of a quick recap on how we both got on before revealing the game week 38 free hit algorithm team. So here's how the algorithm team got on for game week 37, and the main bulk of the points coming from the attack, giving the algorithm a really rather respectable 90 points, which was a fair distance above the average for the top 1k this week. But of course the algorithm was on a free hit, as it is every week, so it should be scoring a decent distance, you'd say, hopefully above the average in the majority of game weeks. But as I mentioned, Jamie Vardy and Richarlison were the two forwards who did seem to provide the main bulk of the points, with Jamie Vardy of course scoring a brace in the first of his two fixtures, but despite failing to register anything against Chelsea, did manage to grab a rather respectable 15 points in total. And then Richarlison with 19, so even outscoring Jamie Vardy. Kudos to you if you went with him as captaincy, the Brazilian. And yeah, 19 points in addition to that meant 49 in total just from those two strikers, made up more than half of the algorithm score for the week. Elsewhere, there were a few bright sparks with Dean Zaha and also Reece James grabbing some returns, but not much else other than that, and quite a few let down in regards to clean sheets, and also Danny Ings up top. But yeah, 90 points for the algorithm, not bad at all. Let's have a look at how my team got on and was able to live up to the algorithm's set score. And overall with my team, I was rather disappointed too, and although quite a few of the damages could have been prevented if I just stick around and looked at the press conferences and some of the early news regarding the Liverpool lineup, etc., this overall was still a rather poor score. The only real highlight was Richarlison coming through with the captaincy, ending up being the right pick out of any player to go for this game week, unless of course you stuck the armband on someone like James Maddison, who scored a magnificent 25-point haul. At the end of the day, I didn't really consider him too much, and that was because I'd bolstered up with so many premiums in the middle of the midfield who did fail to deliver for me for not the first time so far this season. De Bruyne and Son were really quite disappointing. Even Kane up front would have been a better option to go for. Danny Ings, of course, really, really poor. I really do feel for those who did go ahead and captain him because he did not look like a bad shout at all. Gordon didn't manage to grab anything of note, and Zaha just with that one measly assist, as the same with Luca Dean in defence. No clean sheets as well was rather disappointing, and Robertson and Salah meant we got a couple points off the bench, but that only took our total up to 78 points for the game week, which in a game week where there were some great free hit scores flying about of over the 100 mark, this was rather disappointing and not up to the level of the algorithm with 90. So yeah, that makes it 19-18 as you can see to the algorithm in the series, which means I can only draw and tie it back. You'll have to leave below in the comments what you think we should do if it does end up at 19 all, but let's get into having a look then if I'm going to be able to make it 19 all by revealing the algorithm team for game week 38. So then, for the final time this season, this is the algorithm team reveal for game week 38. And kicking it off with the goalkeeper, it's going to be Aaron Ramsdale, who has been quite a regular feature for the computer team throughout the course of this season, with a nice home game against Everton, who of course are now safe from relegation and not really with much to play for. Could see some potential for a clean sheet there, but to be honest, it really is luck of the draw in game week 38. It often does serve us with a lot of surprises. So going with Ramsdale, I don't think it's too bad of a shout at all. I also like the look of Dubravka, who the algorithm has got as backup keeper on the bench. I doubt he'll be finding his way off the bench, with Ramsdale obviously looking likely to start that game against Everton. But if you do have him in your sides, Dubravka, I would not be against starting him if your other keeper that you own isn't actually going to play or has a trickier fixture than the Newcastle game away at Burnley. But in the defence then this week, it's going to be a back five consisting of two different double-ups and then Emerson Royale as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold and Matip of Liverpool find their way into the side. Alexander-Arnold's been a box-standard pick all season when he's fit and ready to play, which it looks like he probably will do against Wolves after having a rest recently in game week 37. And then Joel Matip, of course, who scored a lovely little header, a bit fluky, you'd have to say, but a very nice pull in FPL-wise, nonetheless, for owners, and seems a very decent shout, which displaces Robertson from the side and also provides a nice little bit of value that you can add into other areas of the team if you're looking for a slightly cheaper Liverpool defensive asset. And then from Chelsea, it's Marcus Alonso and Reece James. Both wing-backs seem the standard picks to go for if you're going for the Chelsea defence. And of course, managed to assist a goal. So Reece James assist Marcus Alonso goal in that Leicester game, which managed to look very, very nice for those owners who had them. I actually took Alonso and James out of my own personal team, which ended up being a bit of an L whilst I was on a free hit. But nonetheless, looking great for that game against Watford at home in the final week of the season and looking very high up on the algorithm's predicted points totals. Take of that what you will. Emerson Royale looks like a decent pick as well. I would prefer to go with Sessegnon if I was picking one of the Spurs defenders. He's a little bit cheaper as well, and I would go for him. But Emerson Royale, not a terrible pick nonetheless. But if you were going for a Spurs defender, I'd edge away and probably go for Sessegnon. Then in midfield, we're looking at a midfield three. So another Spurs asset into the team is Heung-min Son, unsurprisingly, with the Korean looking a very standout captaincy option for the final week of the season, and his effective ownership inside the top 1k and top 10k is going to be very, very high indeed. Kevin De Bruyne and Mason Mount also look like great shouts as well, with Mount completing the Chelsea triple up for that home game against Watford on the final day. And Kevin De Bruyne also looking like a great pick, with Man City looking to make sure they can win the Premier League. It seems like a must-win game for them against Aston Villa, so De Bruyne is the pick to go for, in my opinion. Nailed to start, and I think overall it's just that talisman. We've seen 4 goals in one game against Wolves, just what he can do within 90 minutes alone. And then finally, up front, we're looking at a front two of Ivan Toney and then Jamie Vardy as well. Jamie Vardy didn't manage to grab anything against Chelsea, but of course, as mentioned, did manage to grab that brace in game week 37. And then Toney, who's been in very decent form recently, up against a rather weak Leeds side who look to be going down into the Championship. That's going to wrap up the algorithm team that gets a predicted points total this week of 77, which in a single game week is not too shabby at all. I've been reading out, 90s and hundreds worth of scores in terms of predictions over the last couple of game weeks with all these doubles flying about, but not a bad total nonetheless for a single game week, as mentioned. Brian Mbeumo on the bench, along with Jordan Henderson and then Mateta as well, but I doubt many of them will be featuring, if any at all. And Mbeumo's quite a nice option to have off the bench. But the captain's armband this week is going to be stuck on Reece James, who just about makes it over Marcus Alonso in the predicted points totals. If you want to see the full tally of the top 10, then head over to fantasyfootballfix.com. Link is in the description, and you can see all the player rankings and predicted points totals for the final week. But I've got to go away now and put together my team and show you what I've come up with for a free hit draft in game week 38, and you can let me know if you think I'm going to be able to beat the algorithm for the final time this season. So then here's my team that's taking on the algorithm side this week, and I've gone with a formation change to a 4-4-2. As I mentioned when I talked about Emerson Royale, I do prefer Sessegnon, so I've brought him in, and I've also taken a bit of a risk and ditched the double Liverpool defence in total, bringing in João Cancelo instead for that home game against Aston Villa, which I really do fancy the Portugueseman to hopefully get an attacking return in. To be honest, he's not looked in the best of form recently, but I'm hoping on the last day of the season we can see signs of that attacking Cancelo that we've seen throughout the season and who has been so consistent. In goal, there's also been a change with Ramsdale being swapped out for Schmeichel. I think that Leicester game against Southampton is a really good shout for them, and hopefully they could pick up a clean sheet in that game, final home game of the season, of course. Then in the midfield, we've gone with a Liverpool asset, so changing out the Liverpool double defence and bringing in a Liverpool midfielder instead, which of course isn't Mohamed Salah. If I had the funds for Mane, I would have probably gone with him, but instead I've gone with Luis Diaz, who I do think is a really good shout. Of course, Liverpool fighting for the title as well, so it's a must-win game for them against Wolves, and I put quite a lot on Diaz to start and hopefully get an attacking return as well. But then I've stuck with the same front too, but move the captain's armband across from Reece James over to Harry Kane, who I think just has such a good record on the final day of the season and also is playing Norwich. It seems like one of those games where Kane could come out with a hat-trick, whereas with Reece James, yes, he could score 18 points, but I think there's probably just about a higher ceiling for Kane, and that's why I do normally tend to favour the attacker. So I'd probably stick the armband on Harry Kane. As mentioned, if you're just looking to preserve rank, someone like a Son might be your preferred option, but this is what I would probably be doing if I was on a free hit, irrespective of rank, taking just who generally I think is going to score the most points into account. So for the final time this season, let me know, who do you think is going to win, myself or the algorithm? Can I make it 19-all? And as mentioned, what do you think we should do if it does end up being 19-all? Should we do some kind of penalty shootout? How would we do that? Let me know down below in the comments. I'm very interested to hear your ideas. But that has been Eddie versus the algorithm for the course of the season. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring this series to you, and I really hope you have enjoyed it. Leave a thumbs up if you have appreciated it, and once again, thank you so much for all the massive support on the videos. It does not go unnoticed at all. But I'm going to leave you for the final time this season. I wish you the best of luck for the upcoming game week, and hope you end the season with a rank you're happy with. So I'll let you go then, and enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you soon. Goodbye. Before you go, remember to check out the new Chrome extension from fantasyfootballfix.com. I've been using it on my own personal team, and you can see so much useful information at the click of a button, all on one website. Definitely worth a download, absolutely free off the Chrome store. Get it downloaded.